and something else was affecting it. And then at the same time that I was getting these migraines in the middle of the month, the court hearings shifted. And all of a sudden I'm having court hearings in the middle of the month. And I'm not, as to the first of the month, the middle of the month, I'm just getting that for an example. But it was about, that's the experiment that I did. And found out these migraines are not natural. So, thank you, God, that I finally had the idea to do this, to try that. Because otherwise, I would have always thought I was just resigned to migraines my entire life. And it was some strange thing that came up because, well, maybe a year after I had my accident, I started having migraines. And that clearly wasn't the case. So all of a sudden I recognized these migraines are being triggered by the military or by the Department of Defense somehow. And obviously the Department of Justice in some way is colluding. And my adversaries, somebody was connected to that because someone that I had litigation with was connected to people who knew how to pull the triggers. So this is gross obstruction of justice, using migraines to basically torture me out of court. And before that, trying to interfere with my college, and before that, trying to interfere with my work. And all these things happened after I had the surgery in Utah. So once I then started sending emails, I was so excited, I couldn't believe it, and that I discovered this and I knew for sure, so, you know, made statements about it in email to people about my discovery. And after that, I just started having more and more migraines. I wasn't being treated, I was really being tortured because I was being refused painkillers as well as having them triggered at the same time. So I was just basically being forced to suffer. And, you know, the FBI defamed me. I had police saying that they knew about me from one state to the other. How would they know about me? I mean, I hadn't done anything wrong. So there was a really bad internal smear against me. And then after that, I was pregnant, and when I was pregnant I became pregnant in 2005, so this was shortly after I discovered that these migraines were triggered by something other than my period. And when I became pregnant, once it was discovered, I didn't have migraines. And I had a doctor say, well, you will be glad to know that usually many women do not have as many migraines during their periods. I still had a few triggered. Even when I was pregnant. But it wasn't a lot, it was probably 2 or 3 or 4 or something like that. And the pain was so severe that he said morphine wouldn't hurt the baby. There are certain things, it sounds crazy, I mean, it sounds like morphine would be one of the most extreme things that could hurt a child or an unborn child. But there are things that are worse, like Advil, Tylenol, some of those things, blood thinners, will harm an unborn growing baby that's growing, you know, the fetus. But for whatever reason, the morphine passes through the bloodstream differently, or the brain barrier differently, and doesn't reach the infant. So there's not as much of a risk. And I was having still a couple that were so severe I had to have an injection of morphine a couple times. And then the doctor wanted me to pick up a large bottle of Vicodin, which is a narcotic, and he had them there waiting for me at the clinic, and I said, no, I don't need them because I wasn't having the migraines anymore, so why would I pick up the narcotics? Which was, I think, what some group wanted to say about me at the time, what was kind of circulating was that I was a drug addict, and I wasn't. And I felt that, you know, I would never take narcotics or Vicodin when I have an unborn child and a growing child in my womb that I'm nurturing, that I'm getting so fat for, and I'm eating all this organic food for, and I'm getting all of the right oils and omega-3s, and I'm studying about what the best nutrition is. I'm walking every day to get oxygen to my baby's brain. And why would I then take a bottle of Vicodin just to pop a narcotic here and there? You know, when if I don't have the migraines anymore, for whatever reason. And so I left them there. And yet, despite this, I was later called a drug addict. So, after my son was born, things got worse, but, and also I was, right as I was pregnant, I was sent to jail, and it was the first time that I was ever charged with a crime and arrested and put in jail. And it was a false arrest. It occurred the night before I was going to talk to a reporter about the FBI, and the only witness statement that they had was from a police officer, so it was a police-generated arrest. So I will get into those things later, but I mainly wanted to describe a little background, at least of after this surgery, how I was targeted with migraines to torture me out of court, college, and work. And most specifically, the court thing is incredible because this is state-sponsored torture and an illicit means to give my enemies and my adversaries that I had sued in court an advantage, I mean a huge advantage over me. So, and I did discover that they were not triggered at all by, I mean, people were lying and they were trying to use the menstrual cycle idea or excuse as a cover for what they were actually doing to me. So I will maybe tomorrow talk about the arrest and what I was trying to do with the FBI at that time that preceded the extraordinary number of migraines that I was having, and some of the defamation that continued to spiral. So, thank you for listening and for watching. And thank you for those of you who have also prayed for me and for my son. And thank you for those who have tried to do things to help me and my son. And if I've ever thought the wrong thing about the wrong people, then I apologize, and having to figure out myself who's responsible and what's going on. Nobody really gave me any of this information. It's like I've had to do all of it myself, which to me is incredible. All these people knew that I was being tortured, all these people knew what had happened to me, and they all kept quiet about it. And that's when I feel like God is my only friend. Because if I hadn't had the idea that this was really suspicious, what was happening with the military, it would have never given me a framework for then discovering other things. But unfortunately, instead of backing off, the government decided to assault me and my son full time. And that kind of assault has been continuing on a daily basis, minus the time that I was with my fiance from Colombia. So for those I accused wrongly, I apologize, and I think that most of my ideas and accusations have been pretty close to the mark. So if anyone has any evidence that they could share, I would really appreciate receiving that. My email address is cameocares@live.com. cameocares@live.com. And if you or anyone connected to any kind of higher level department or military and know you would be in trouble for revealing certain secrets, if there's still a way that you can do that, I would really appreciate it. My son would appreciate it. There hasn't been any grounds for classifying what they've classified. It's illegal to torture a citizen. It's illegal to use classification and a secret program to cut out competition. And everything that they've done so far has been anti-competitive. They haven't experimented on me on a just random basis when I'm not doing anything productive. They've always tortured me when I'm getting ahead and trying to at least just keep my name clear and work and do something productive, be in business. So, it's anti-competition. Thank you for your time. I hope you're well in this morning, this afternoon, this evening. And that concludes this